Okay, great. Let's do it.
That's the gold. That's the gold. I just clicked live. It's going to take a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Let me
Let
see
me
here.
see if I can position my camera.
Yeah. We can do it like this if you want. We can do it
I
like
got my
this.
fishes.
Is that better?
Yeah, let me see. Hold on.
You like the broad screen better than the other one?
Yeah, because I like that guy.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to
Does that
put on
work
the
for you?
intro. Huh? No, this
Does
is
that work
good.
for you? Okay.
Yeah. That way I don't have to look at myself so close.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to turn on the intro. We're 40 seconds into this. We got to let people come in.
Okay, great.
Let me just verify. Yeah, there they are. It's already 11 people in the house. Okay, we're going to play our intro. Be right back with a new friend, typical Soulogy fashion. I don't know anything about her. So we just get to know each other in front of everybody. Be
Sounds
right back.
good.
What's happening, everybody? We got Crystal Clenney is in the house.
Hey, everyone.
And thanks for coming in and sharing space and honoring us with your presence. Yeah, so we don't know each other, which is the way we roll here, and this is where all the magic is. And I said, how did we come together? And she said you put up a post in the Soulogy group about how your journey to becoming, I think if I understood you correctly, an intuitive human. Is that
That's
right?
right. That's right. You got it.
So that sounds like something full of code and good information. I mean, what was that all about? What was that post about?
So that post was the moment of, we can call this, called many names, right? Transcendence, awakening, just like I also refer to as just like completely rocking my face off, where I was 25 and in Atlanta, Georgia, on a routine business trip implementing payroll software for a giant national telecom company. And I went through this amazing journey that week that landed me in front of this strange woman experiencing some kind of healing modality I knew nothing about. At 25, growing up in the South, I didn't know anything about shamans or healers or anything like that. We were a Baptist kind of family growing up. And Jesus was a healer, basically. And I ended up at the end of this week, like, totally knowing that I was a healer and not knowing what that meant. But that completely shifted me and thrusted me into a complete and total, utter journey of self.
Wow. So that was like, what, 2 years ago? You were 25?
I know. That's what everybody said. I'm about to be 45, you guys.
Oh, God. So you're talking like the year 2000, basically.
Yeah, it was 2002. Exactly.
And yeah, and that's interesting because we had a 25-year-old, I think he was 25-year-old, that was on the show before this, which is amazing to me because it's taken so long for the young people. I mean, relative to the last 10 years, to really see them in these communities. And so this happened to you at 25. What have you been doing for 20 years since that happened?
Yeah. I mean, First of all, it took me the first 5 years after this crazy experience to integrate it fully. I didn't even have the language of integration at the time, or assimilation, or anything like that. I was brought up in a military household, and played a lot of sports, excelled in school, did the best I could, all that kind of stuff. And, was now just starting my career actually in Jacksonville, Florida.
I
And I
lived
went
there.
on this.
I lived there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah, I was there. I was in St. Johns County.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it. That's a
right
little
on the
southern.
edge.
Yep.
Right on the edge.
Yep.
What's it called?
Duval County right here.
Julington.
Represent.
Julington Creek.
Yes, I know that very well.
I was like the corner townhouse on the corner of that highway, and as you go into it.
Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's like Mandarin-ish
Yeah.
area, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I spent most of my life growing up there. Born in California, moved to Mississippi, stationed. My dad was military, and then we ended up in Jacksonville. But yeah, and so there I was, 25, having had this amazing experience, which we can go into the details about if you'd like. And
In the
coming back,
Baptist Belt, I might add.
that's it. That's right. And I came back to share like what happened, talking about young people having experiences, and it was deer in the headlights with
Yeah.
pretty much all of my friends. And I, painfully made them sit through every detail of like 3 hours of me telling this story over and over and over again. Probably now, to my own understanding, like my own attempt at understanding what was going on, but also like, you guys, I'm not crazy. Like, this thing happened, this amazing, like, there's no words, there's no reference, no anything that I can use to describe what happened. And I'm just attempting, and they just didn't understand. And I actually didn't find a lot of support in that space with my friends, my like long-term friends. And I moved. I
Yeah.
left. 2 months later, I was like, I got to go figure out what this is. It was too much, too powerful, too strong to ignore, for sure.
Well, what's interesting is, hearing so many stories like this, and, having gone through it myself, and, and I've also had out of body and near death, one of each, I guess. And, but it's like listening to people, like listening to you now, I realize that these types of whatever you call it, it's really, you come back with the same thing that you do when you have an out of body or near, what people talk about, near death experiences. I mean, like, you got to tell everybody, it's like you're a totally different person.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have come on this show talking about how when they woke up, their family, they became they became on the outside looking in instead of being on the inside with them. But this happened with your friends, and you're young, so that must have been pretty challenging. And did it happen with your family too?
It did. I mean, I haven't even really shared that much about that until recently, to be honest with you, with my family and what I've been doing for the last 10 years of those 20 years, like
2020 will do that to you, right? 2020
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, it just is like, now is the time, like, make the jump. So yeah, for the last 3 years, I've been more willing. Well, now that I have a formal education in what the heck happened in, language, integration points, other healing experiences, that kind of ground it of like, okay, this was not just a crazy fluky thing. There's some science behind it. There's, knowledge out there in a lot of different streams of religion or transcendence or philosophy, like a lot of different streams of intellectualism that support what happened. Because I'm an engineer. I've been an engineer for my entire career. So I'm both left brain and right brain. Like, I need some information. I need some structure to help ground it. And so, yeah, that's how it kind of went down, to get a basis of understanding, and then, kind of come out slowly out the door, if you will.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. We're all coming out. We're all
Yep.
coming out of the closets. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's so interesting is, with all this time talking about veils dropping when really we've been in the closet. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
It's
Yeah, and
it's
I think that's the point really is like
yeah,
these things are happening
yeah,
and they happen to me. They continue to happen to me.
yeah,
I feel like they are happening to everybody at some level or other. And that's exactly what we're about at Intuitive Human is to say, how are these things happening? Let's take it into science. Let's find the trends and the patterns.
yeah,
My engineer part of me, my an analytical side of me can't stop.
yeah,
It's like but I need humanity to share the stories. I need them to really slow it down, their experiences, my experiences, your experiences, to be able to get in there and identify these things that are happening so we can say a little bit more about
yeah,
how it's happening.
yeah. Yeah, there's that's interesting too. It's such a new math too. You're an engineer. I mean, I can relate. I'm not so much an engineer. I'm more of an analytic, like you're talking about. It's the same component,
Yeah.
there's this, there is a new math, and so it doesn't make sense, but it makes all the sense in the world. It's really weird. It's like
Right.
merging spirit and science, or spirituality and science, for lack of better words. But yeah, so that must be a really interesting, intricate part of what I call the soul highway or 0 point field for you to be pulling in from both sides, because it's a real interesting dynamic relationship between intellect and intelligence, infinite intelligence. Like, how
Yes.
much of your stuff do you think, like, if you look at yourself today and say, this is what I'm composed of in my journey on a conscious level, how much of it would you say has come from the intellect side and how much from the infinite intelligence side?
More and more, I am stepping into and learning the dance, the trust, the belief that the infinite intelligence is what even holds intellectualism or, human intelligence,
Right.
as you might call it, probably called many other names. But more and more, there's, living life in the flow, living life more intuitively, being able to identify, like, oof, there was a little whisper that just went by. What was
Mm,
that? And then tracking it,
yeah.
and there's a beautiful fine line between like influence and tracking too that I've come into contact with. So how much am I witness? How much am I co-creator? How much am I, just absent also?
Yeah.
So all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's well put, because I think at some point we get to this point where we go, I always say you can't divorce yourself from any part of the universe. Well, those things that are really far away, like Mars and, galaxy, I mean, it's easy. Dragons and, yeah, well, that's part of me. That sounds cool. But those
Yes.
things really close to you. So
Yeah.
it's like, and it's interesting what you're saying, because you're owning all of it. You're even owning the absentee part of it.
Hmm.
So I think that's really important, because Franco de Nicola talks about the active consciousness. So it's his way of describing what's actually at the party on a conscious level, making decisions and navigating. And I love that you even have a wider band than what I normally hear and what I've really been aware of in myself, where you're actually, we're not talking silence here, we're talking uh, disassociation, not being present, that type of thing is part of our makeup too, right?
Yes, exactly. What in my landmark training, if I can even use their name, I don't know, but it's
What
like
is
the
that?
unknown,
Can you talk about it?
the
I
landmark
mean,
training.
yeah, what is that?
Landmark is an amazing, amazing, impactful institution that teaches, a wonderful way of breaking down the belief systems. That's the closest thing I've experienced to these, like, really bizarre intuitive experiences that leave me deconstructed. Like
Right.
it's a way to actually go through a weekend process in the forum, and then also in they have a lot of curriculum that you can follow, but even in just their
Yeah.
introductory class, it was a complete like belief system deconstruction
Yeah.
that occurred, but in a very methodical way
Yeah.
if you can. And I just was able to witness in that class, like my resistance, what's happening. Oh my God, I can feel it.
Yeah.
Destruction, like happening right now. And then being able to watch it rebuild itself.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's a critical part of becoming aware and more awakened into
Yeah.
these levels of existence is, who am I here and who am I here and who am I here every
Yeah.
time, and then watching that rebuild possibility occur.
Another great description. We're having great shows today. My wife, my bride, Morgan Lee, she has a process called zero pointing that she downloaded over a number of years
Mhm.
that she shares, and it was life changing for me when I met her 5 years ago, and she came over and introduced me to it. So I've learned a lot about what you're talking about over the years. This sounds like a constant, a modality, and there's lots of modalities,
There.
but it also sounds like it's a concentrated, within a concentrated period, right? So like you're really into it the whole time. And you're right, the attachments, the judgments, all that stuff comes up, the resistance comes up.
Yeah.
And what's interesting in what you're saying and what I've experienced through that type of process with her is that as you start to become aware of these things you didn't know you thought you were, and you find out that you're not that, something opens up, and it's like you said, I think you said a minute ago, this dance, and it's like this dance, and you could say, and I think at a time it was like, we would go bam down, and we'd be on our back for a while, and then we'd elevate, and now it's just becoming almost like one fluid single motion. But yeah, it's has your experience using that modality and others, or whatever it is that's gotten you here, has there been a relationship or anything you can see or tell in terms of what you've been able to experience as far as your senses and your skills and abilities?
Well, to be honest with you, I have been studying energy medicine immersively for the last 10 years in many different programs running concurrent. And Luminous Awareness Institute has been the foundation of my educational training. I have
Luminous, what is it called?
Luminous Awareness
Okay.
Institute.
Okay. Is that online or is that local?
It was in person for myself, and for COVID, it's been online.
Yeah.
But it's actually in person. It's a 2-year program, and for my own journey in that, I knew from that moment that happened when I was 25 that I would someday be formally educated.
Right.
And so from that point on, I kind of like now, I would ask. So it's all about be curious in my view. So I would always ask like, oh, is now the right time? How about now? How about now? How about now? Right. In any kind of time in my life. And it was like, nope, 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 nope. And then that trained me to hear the no's and also
Yeah.
to hear the
Yeah.
yeses.
Yeah.
And so I finally moved to California. No offense, California. I was born here. I was born in San Diego, but I left and now I came back. But I was like, hey, I am in the land of the weirdos. Like, there must be something that has to do with this training here. Let me look. Because I was, in Michigan before and in Texas before that. And so, yes. And so I looked, I saw it. It kind of wasn't the right time. And
Yeah.
then in 2012, I found Luminous. I probably am the only person who found their webpage, as they tell me, because it's a word of mouth kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for sure, it was like once I met their coordinator, I will always tell this story. I saw the whites of her eyes, and that's it. I was like, this is my people. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Wow.
I don't care what it is, how we do it. Yes is the answer.
Sector 47 in Southern California of the weirdos.
That's right.
They're all over the place.
California, I love you. I love you, California. I'm here too.
No. California. I love California. It is what you said. But and another thing that you're really talking about or representing is this. Use the word I think a second ago, open or openness, but like the more that you find out where you're not, it's weird. You become more open. Like you're less sensitive to somebody criticizing or an opinion, and because you're realizing that you don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah, the more
Basically,
you know, the more you don't.
right?
Yeah, that's it. That's
So
it.
now, like you talked about, go back to what you okay. What have you studied? What have you become certified in? And like you used the term a minute ago. I think it has something to do with healing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about it?
Sure. Yeah. So I am an energy medicine practitioner officially. I've
Mhm.
studied 10 years energy medicine from the Luminous Awareness Institute. I've also studied sound and vibrational frequency therapy
Mm.
because I have discovered my own sensitivity to sound, vibrations, metabolizing information through sound. Be like, forget it. Any of the ancient sound tools like gongs, crystal bowls, didgeridoos, no way. I don't want, no. Um, because it takes me into like really intense past life annihilation experiences that are
Mm.
very intense,
Mm.
that I haven't been able to exactly reconcile, but they continue to happen. So I thought I would study it and find out more information about it. I am also trained in craniosacral therapy through the Milne Institute as well. And that has brought me into a close relationship with the nervous system
Mm.
and wellness. Again, I'm kind of balancing the science and the experience to say, like, I really have an intense focus on nervous system regulation, how
Mm.
dysregulated nervous systems might bring us closer in contact with other experiences that are happening in intuition or not,
Yeah.
as well as some of the things that we're discovering in our interview process with other people who have these amazing experiences are, implications or hypotheses that we're kind of collecting and creating with regards to hormones and being able to access different levels of consciousness or not. So it's pretty fascinating how kind of going through and excavating the different experiences with folks are creating the trends and the patterns, but they're from disparate experiences. So these people don't know each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are the commonalities? That's what we're all about, is finding out what are these commonalities that are happening across the board when
Mm.
people are having dreams. How
Mm.
is the nervous system involved? Because it sure seems to be an anchoring moment in the system, even when you're dreaming or you're walking down the street, you get goosebumps or something like that, that a nervous system response grounds the intuition in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, you said a lot. I mean, there's so much we could dig into, but
I know.
we've had some people come on, over the last few years, not really encompassing everything you're talking about, but like we've had a couple of ladies come on talk about the nervous system, and I remember seeing this meme one time, and it basically just showed the nervous system. I
Mhm.
guess I don't know if it was out of the body or it was a rendition of it, like somebody drew it or whatever. But it said basically this is you, and I thought, oh, that's what they're talking about. And then I
Right.
think about, like myself over the last couple of years and a lot of things that people have talked about in regard to their feelings, to their instincts, and like how, I guess, in other words, people are sitting with that more. They're not
Mhm.
just going, oh, wow, what was that? Or, that flash comes in or you get those chills, but actually sitting with that and connecting with that energy and going, okay, well, what does this mean?
Right.
And of course, a lot of people, especially in the last year and a half, given the beautiful design we created, has spent a lot of time alone, and so some of that
Mhm.
seems to be happening collectively. I like your approach because it's not just like on a personal, I'm an energy practitioner kind of thing, but you actually got some science behind it.
Yeah.
There's a more general overview of, like what's happening to the individual, but what's happening to the collective when you add all these pieces together, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, the whole idea of tensegrity, not only in our bodies, but in our biological world that we exist in.
Yeah.
Tugging over here, tugs over there. If you just think of this, the spinal column itself and the nervous system and how it's, connected to everything. You move, it undulates, we move, and something else undulates over there. Kind of butterfly effecty type of deal.
Yeah,
But
kind of like how
yeah,
the universe works,
yeah, yeah,
but in
exactly.
the flesh, right?
Yes, yes.
That's got to be trippy for you though. So this has been 20 years, and then of course with the things that you're involved in, to see. I mean, have we reached a point where there's a palpability to, let's just say, the unseen or the non-physical ripples? I mean, you see a lot of, not a lot, but I mean, you'll see headlines in the various different places talking about quantum entanglement, the effect, that I have here on you there, and that type of thing. Have you
Yeah.
seen? Are you feeling it? Is it becoming more of our conscious awakening state?
I think it is. And the more, how do I say this? I think words matter, and I think they carry a vibration. So I feel like, to respond to that, it's like the more conscious and the more aware and the more faculty I
Mm,
have to direct awareness and my own awareness and my own consciousness, I can see how everything else is in response to that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's something about that. I mean, you could say it another way, because because we're coming from the logical or the more human side of us. I mean,
Right.
we look at things more of like, wow, look at how big that mountain is we got to climb. When actually, as we start to get more clarity, like you said, more faculty, we start to go, oh, that's the
Yeah.
best thing ever happened to me. But
Right.
in other words, we go, okay, what do I got to do to make this happen? I mean, we look at the challenge of it and the work and the drudgery of it, but there's another side to it.
Mhm.
That seems to be coming into play, especially this year. Like,
Right.
I'm talking telepathy, intuition, the body speaking, having more faculty, seeing like a congealment or cohesive kind of thing happening. I would say in this community and places I go and people that I touch. I mean, it seems like it's really growing. I wonder, when people
Mhm.
talk about who's awake, because I don't really
Right.
agree with that, but that number is a lot bigger than I think we all think it is.
Yes.
I really
Yes,
believe that.
exactly. I think it is. I think it's emerging. I think and thank the whole pandemic situation for, shutting us down in the way that it did. If it had to happen, then wake us up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and let's go deeper and let's learn how to listen deeper. And if it was a global shutdown that had to make that happen, okay, now let's emerge from our cocoons and, be different.
It's time to fly. It's time to leave the nest.
That's it. That's
Mother,
it.
Mother Universe has said, I had enough of you.
Yeah.
So, God, there's so many things because I have a very curious mind and it moves very rapidly. But so, there's two things. I'm going to come back to one I'm really want to sink my teeth into. But there's a lot of talk about the masculine and the feminine. And then
Mhm.
you're in a field of study and endeavor where you're really considering and experiencing and utilizing it all, the physical experience and the non-physical, or the intellect and the intelligence, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, is there, to you, is there a new way of living, that this flow that you're talking about, where we can actually be able to like put this in human terms and say, here's how we do this. I mean, here's how we make it happen.
In terms of the masculine and the feminine, I'll answer this two ways. So the first one is in terms of masculine and feminine, for me and what I carry, the medicine I carry and had to really come to terms with, I do feel two-spirited if we're in a duality kind of thing. I do feel very strong masculine energy, divine masculine. I feel equally, I've had encounters for equally strong divine feminine, and
Mm,
that's been a part of my emerging and healing and uncovering and belief deconstructing process and all that kind of stuff. But also, I feel like for the awakening processes, um, that it's the beyond thing, I feel like it's a beyond a masculine or a
yeah.
feminine or a duality or anything like that. And the work that I do and the coaching and stuff that I do and take people through, it really kind of brings together energy psychology, psychological developmental core woundings and gifts and intuition, because I believe the intuitive tracks are wrapped up inside of there, that you come built in. Like, you know, if I'm able to discover and walk in with you and with you actually, through discovering your developmental character styles. It's an old way to say it, but they're called character styles. I am also able to quickly uncover which intuitive pathways are inherent for you. And then go into the gifts of those. We don't spend a lot of time in the way that I do it inside of the wounding aspects of that, but really just understanding what those are, and even creating a broader sense beyond yourself of what everybody else around you, right? That whole tensegrity kind of connectedness, so that there's a more holistic view of what's in your field. What is my field? What's my natural field? What's in your field, and how do you interact with it?
That's a good point you brought up, and you know, because I kind of left my body in the middle of that question, and I'm glad you brought it back.
Welcome back.
Because that's why I said I'm getting back in this chair, and I've got to, you know, stay in the human. But what you were saying made a lot of sense, and what I was talking about was like, is that somewhere in this space in between breaths, you know, physical, non-physical, that you're engaging in? Do you see any type of trail or path? Is the feminine this and is the masculine that, knowing that we're both and so on? But I love what you said, because you said, well, you know, we really don't get into like the let's say the feminine distortion and the masculine distortion. It sounds like you're actually looking at those things and going, this is a quick study. Here's the characteristics of this side of it. Here's the characteristics of that side of it. And it's less about, you know, getting in touch with this and that. Not that that might not be important, but it's more about really merging the two. It's divine union,
right.
You know, structure, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's cool.
And to your earlier point, in coming into union with that, it's the dissolving of the polarity of it, and not even like the dissolving to get rid of it, but the dissolving to become it.
Yeah. And this is really interesting to me because we're in the physical, and we think, how many times have we all gone, okay, as soon as I do this, I'll be there. You know, it's going to stop. You know, I don't have to do it anymore.
Right.
But we all know it's got an ing on it. But I guess what I'm getting at, it's like it's taking us in terms of embodiment to places we thought we'd never even go. We're having to see the person that lives on the street, God bless them, you know, on the street corner behind a building in the same light as we are the far extreme of that. And this covers all things, including, of course, gender, you know. But so this is pretty cool, because it doesn't sound like that you really carry a charge. It sounds like you've done a lot of work in terms of gaining the higher perspective and embodying it and getting on with the work, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Getting on with the work. I mean, I carried myself pretty masculinely growing up, super guarded. And I even had friends, even in young, like 7th grade, 8th grade, being like, hey, why do you walk like that? And I'm like, walk like what, you know? And it just was like, basically, you forgive my French, but they were just like, you walk around like you can kick some ass.
Yeah.
And I was
that's
like,
the whole point. That's what Robert was talking about earlier. He was in what is it, UFC, or, you know, martial arts and all that. And he was just talking about the dynamics of that, where eventually nobody wins. Somebody's going to come kick your ass one day or the other, right?
That's it. And I mean, to that point, I did study martial arts for 8 years in my, you know, at my teenage years, 13 to 21. So yeah, I mean, maybe I did. I just wasn't aware of it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, well, that's not what I want to. I feel soft inside. How do I match that exterior? Wow. It took many years, you know, and a lot of healing.
So you felt that softness inside of you.
I did, yeah.
And yet you had the, that's pretty cool. That's, there you go again with, you know, I mean, it just seems like everywhere you turn, there's two things that you're making one. whether it's that softness inside of you and the hardness outside of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Masculine, feminine. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, and even like I got shaved hair and I got long hair. Just a
it's
little.
very
Yeah.
cool. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Oh, you said something else too. And that's the one I was going to come back to. God, you were talking about your work, and I went off on that other one. I can't remember it right now. It'll come back to me.
Hmm.
It'll come back to me in a second.
Yeah, no
Hmm.
problem. I mean, I can also say to an earlier point, taking the energy psychology, a holistic view, these, kind of developmental styles, character styles, and some traditional ways of thinking about that
Hmm.
and wrapping it into, oh, are you a person who's a more high frequency or lower frequency? Understanding how you move in the world will help you understand how you interpret things in the world
Yeah.
from other people, your surroundings, the tree over there, ocean, the mythological beings that you have access to, the angel realms, the multi dimensions, like all that stuff. I'm finding, and that's the fascinating part when I was thinking about intuitive human, like, well, what do I want to do with this? Because it told me, like, hey, intuitive human is the work you're going to do in the world. I was like, hey, it's going to need to be interesting.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
how do I how do I
the,
stay satisfied? How do I help people? What are my pillars? What are my facets? What's my mission? And learning more about any and all of that is the aspect too that keeps me going,
yeah.
is to really get like how do you see angels, if you do, and how you do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the experiences are just fantastically wild.
Yeah. I had a conversation with Missy Sue in Sedona. She stayed at the condo in the extra room one night. I was there, and she asked a lot of questions like that. What do you and Morgan see when you experience something together? What do you see when it's alone? What do you hear? Is it an actual voice? And
Yes.
I'm a big believer. I'm like you. I think the words are important, but the energy is obviously going to supersede and always has superseded everything. We're just more conscious of it. But yeah, digging into that type of stuff is going to minimize and eventually dissolve these contentions we have of separation, like, oh,
Mhm.
well, you can do that but I can't do it. And then
Right.
you talk about it and you find out, well, you know what, she's doing the same thing I'm doing, I just do it a different way.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
just a commonality that I think is the last place that we've been told to look, and now we're looking there.
Right, and I think it is helpful to just see everyday people,
Yeah.
not the experts, right? I'm taking these interviews and making them into a documentary of
All right.
everyday people to say, "Hey, you over there on the street, or you in the building, or you, Mr. Doctor or Miss Doctor, like whoever it is, you can have these experiences, and you probably are actually
Yeah.
having them. You just don't know what to look for. You don't recognize it when it's talking, but these whispers, these, really loud things are happening in your space all the time. Just how much are we overriding it?
Yeah. Yeah. So these interviews that you're talking about, are these like pre-session interviews or sessions themselves?
They kind of, I mean, they become very useful for the person in the way that three things happen that we've noticed. The first thing is that the person who has experienced the moment, and now they're retelling it, right? Just like you
Mm,
just mentioned about
mm,
being in contact with the energy,
mhm,
transmission is a
mm,
real thing. So we do a pre screen with our interviewees. The initial pre-screen, and then we have another conversation like a week or so later, because usually other things are enlivened from the first conversation. So new things are discovered in that person, in that being, in that experience. And then by the third time, that's usually when we're ready to do the interview. We do them in bulk
mm,
batches, as they call it in the engineering world for software. But we ready everybody, and then basically by the third time, they're ready to be in full contact with
mm,
the energy itself, which then is perceived on screen, and then the viewer gets to experience not only the energy but the story, the newfound happenings that the person experienced. Plus, the third thing that happens is a lot of the times during the interview process, I will point out and point to other things that they might not have seen or heard or realized during that process. So it's pretty magical how everybody feels like they're being served during that interview process.
Yeah. Yeah. We've obviously had a lot of energy practitioners on the show over the years. And I'm always amazed at their different descriptions, which really, take me to what it really is all about. And I guess in so many words, they're opening themselves up as much as they can, then basically creating a space where what you would call the client is then invited to do the same, and it's that level of expanse of what is it, vulnerability, transparency, truth. Magical things happen, and there's so many different modalities, but it's the intention of the experiences, which is really kind of like behind the energy of what creates these magical experiences. I imagine you've had many.
I have actually had countless,
Yeah.
too many,
Yeah.
and they're beautiful, amazing, scary, terrifying, deathly. They're
Mm,
everything all at once, and it takes it takes some time to unravel them, unpack them, and they feel completely real.
yeah.
Um, at the same time that it's happening. But yeah, to be able to be for my signature or whatever, not to limit it, but to kind of, relate to what I do. I feel like I'm a container
Mm,
when we have these processes or these either the coaching sessions that I have or the interviewing processes and procedures that we go through. It's like, we create sacred space, like you were mentioning. There's a container here that's going to hold your experience, my experience, our experience, and then, let it discover new things about itself. And
yeah.
then having and, really keeping in that intention is very meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess in a way, it's emerging, a more conscious merging, because I guess we're always merging, even if we go buy a piece of candy at the convenience store with the clerk. I mean, there's always something happening. Um,
Right.
and it's just like, I just think back to 10 years ago when I was, kind of reawoke or whatever. And there was a different atmosphere. I wasn't as plugged into the community, but you didn't see energy practitioners. You
Right.
saw mediums,
Yes.
psychics, and
Yes.
and and it was more of like and I even remember when it came into me and I was having these experiences in the astrals and all that. And I said, well, I know I'm not here for a dog and pony show. Like, what can we do with this? And I think that kind of must have been going on everywhere. And look at where we are now. I can't even imagine. I know what I wanted to ask you now, but I can't even imagine where we'll be. And on that note, going back to what I forgot, now I remembered, you talked about the nervous system, the cranial part, but you also talked about sound and vibration. And I've seen that coming into play more and more the last 2, 3, 4 years. And
Mhm.
I feel like we've reached a point where whatever we came in with and we're leaving with, it's enough of it's come on board that we're like, okay, I am soul, I am healer, whatever it is. And then we're combining this experience with it to create new templates, basically remixes.
Right.
So, on that note,
Awesome.
how big is sound and vibration, one, in your work, and how big do you think it will become? Because it seems like it's a big, big deal.
Yeah. And for me, through my direct experience, through my sound and vibrational education and understanding through some journeys that I've had, sound is everything.
Mm,
It
yeah,
is pervasive. It is the basis of all of existence. It
yeah,
is what takes us all the way there, all the way back, and keeps us even inside the everything that we look at is sound,
yeah,
and frequency and vibrating. It's just like, even this little marker, this is a sound. This is a frequency. It's a vibration.
Yeah. Yeah, we learned a lot about that at Soulogy Fest because we had Eric Rankin was on sonic geometry, and so he put on a presentation and he talked about that. He talked about how every color has a sound and every sound has a geometry, and it's all related. Fascinating
Yeah,
stuff.
I love it. I love it. Yep.
Earlier in the day, two sisters got up, Shakina Rose and Kalina Malnar, and they did an improvisational kind of a light language harmonic song type thing.
Okay.
And there was about 7 or 8 times, to my count, where their voices did something totally fucking weird. I mean, like, like you could literally see, I could, and other people made remarks, you could literally see like rays of color, and I could see like some type of weird geometry I hadn't seen before. And it was all about, to me, the message was that they hit this point of pure harmony. And when I think about what you're saying and the reason I brought it up based on what you had been telling me is that we think of memories coming in and it's like, oh, I was so-and-so in a past life or this happened to me, but it's more like how this shit works. Like it's how it works. It's like we also had JJ Hertog, the guy that wrote Keys of Enoch. He was there with his wife and Alan Steinfeld, and he did a presentation that involved toning.
Yes.
Like, and so he's doing this, and at the time it comes in, I start getting this memory of like, I remember this. I remember when I was a little kid and I was sick, and I would make these noises, and you know, and it's like coming back. So sometimes the memories come back not through like instruction. It is a sound or a vibration.
Yeah. And the way that I've experienced it, try to like language it for my own self is, first of all, sound is pervasive. So it's going to penetrate the wall, the body, for sure. We have a lot of water, 70%, you know, 3/4 of us are water. And the impact that sound has on waters and our cellular makeup and cellular memory that's in there, it just like shakes it loose. The things that are trapped, the memories that are, you know, kept like in a trauma way in the body, shakes it loose into the consciousness in order for it to be like digested. Right. And then processed so that it can leave the tissues. And sound, like, dude, like, no. So I remember my first two experiences with sound and toning. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that anything was going to happen. I was experiencing this, what was it? The Kundalini yoga, like a long time ago, 12 years ago or something like that. And at the end they had a gong. Okay, cool. And so we laid on this floor for 25 minutes for this gong bath. And then, like, I don't even know what's happening. I'm just flat on the floor, 12 people in the room, and things are going down. And like memories are surfacing of, you know, this car accident that I had, and then being in this other place, and then being this other, like 3 completely different aspects of my life, but not exactly my life. And I would need to like come up and like look around like, you're okay. Like you are in this yoga room with these people. I don't know what's happening because I didn't know the power of sound. And then I had another time that was also in the beginning. I had somebody tone my heart chakra, and they put their mouth like this over as a part of the session and did their tone thing. And oh man, like 3 days later, progressively, that was on a Friday, by Monday morning, like Saturday, I don't kind of feel very right. Sunday, I kind of feel really kind of bad. And then like the middle of the night, Monday, I'm throwing up. I woke up in the middle, 3 a.m., just like bad, and had to go see my chiropractor, Maori energy guy. And he put Humpty Dumpty back together again. But it was bad. It hurt so bad.
It sounds like an extended ayahuasca experience. You know, you take
it was
ayahuasca
crazy.
and all this stuff comes up.
Yeah, I just want to say, you guys, like, I'm having these trippy experiences, and I am sober as, I don't know what you call people who are super sober, but I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do substances or anything like that. So these things are happening in my life on a consistent basis now. I never know. And what's going to happen. I can feel something, But then to take the courage to ride that wave is a whole new thing. But yeah, it's
Well,
all
and then
such
sometimes you
inspiration.
don't know what happened till later. You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
for
that's what
sure.
happened.
Yeah,
But
that's
and
for
I
sure.
can I think this is part of what's coming into our awareness and reality too, is that I saw Morgan sent me a great post or whatever it was yesterday, and there was a couple of sentences in there, and it said something to the effect of they were talking in the context of, hey, what we're talking about. We know who we are. We got enough information. Call us a star seed, light worker, human, soul, spirit, whatever. This is,
Yep.
you're you, I'm me, and let's get to work. And it said that addictions and dishonesty. Now I'm thinking frequency, energy, right? Not the hardcore literal aspect.
Sure.
Deter and impede the expansion of what's occurring. So I
Mm-hmm.
look at that as in what you're saying is, and also in my own, I've known that everything was going to fall away. And now it's kind of gotten to a point where like the body's going, hey, you know what? We're the last one on board. And that means we're probably the most important. And none of this stuff's going to happen unless we come in alignment. So I think that's part of that palpability that I was searching for before and talking with you of where's the evidence of the actual transformation of this human to a divine human, from the carbon body to the light-based body. And you're so close to it. You're like touching the non-physical and the physical in your work and of course in your daily experience.
Yeah.
Are you seeing this change in people? I mean, have your clientele changed over the last couple of years? Do you see any kind of collective or group expansion or characteristic that's common to them?
Yeah, I think people are becoming more curious for sure. And I think that for me, I present a groundedness, a like, give me some facts and not just like take me into the clouds,
Yeah.
that I keep it real for them. I bring them to the body, things like that. And so the people who are showing up in my space are people who have, had some experiences, need more understanding, more language, more, connection and community and just
Mm.
really being gotten, a lot of times it makes me feel like, hey, I'm that 25-year-old person seeking, somebody to really get me here. And a lot of times I will have conversations with people who have a very powerful experience that nobody has gotten them in their
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And, even some of the spiritual leaders and stuff like that in their communities don't totally get what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it takes one to know one, I always say. And when you're in the presence of somebody, even if they're not even speaking one word, the sacred sees itself.
Of course. Yeah. That's another thing I think that's changing too. We always look at the mirror because of where we came from. We're looking at the mirror as, oh, I'm not that.
Yeah.
And then we're understanding, well, you are everything. And now we've kind of gone through some of that and we're looking at people and able to actually accept that that's me I'm looking at.
Right.
And I mean in a good way, like, wow, look what they can do, look what they are. And and then you have that realization, well, I'm here with them, so
Right.
it's, so that's kind of to me, an indicator that we're past the tipping point, not to take anything away from what we have in front of us and ahead of us.
Yeah, yeah, and I think people, especially given the current state of affairs with pandemic land and all that kind of stuff, it's given everybody a chance to, reevaluate what's
Yeah.
important, why, and
Yeah.
how to, move on to the next level of themselves.
Well, seriously, and you said it earlier. I mean, and we have talked about that for the last year and a half, how this was a grand design, I mean, like how you couldn't ask for a better situation. Solitude, no more 9 to 5, living in houses with people you haven't even talked to, but you've been there for 20 years. I mean, all that self introspection, all those epiphanies that came in.
And
But
even like in India, being able to see the Himalayas
yeah,
because all the industry was shut down.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have this thing happening now where in 2021, so you've got a lot of different diversity in perspectives on what's happening. Be
Yeah.
it a mask, somebody might be pro-mask but anti-vaccine. Somebody might be down the line for, being precautious. But what I see happening is there's less division, there's less projection, and there's more like, hey, that's what you want to do, go do it. And I'm going to do
Mhm.
what I want to do. So that is another, I think, little ripple that's still coming from that whole thing.
I think it's a good point, that one that you just made of like, how do I say, like being in contact with your soul's truth, what's true for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
being able to tell the difference. And these are like fine lines, like nuanced little lines of who you are in the world and how you be in the world. To thine own self be true.
Mm.
Okay, but what does that mean? You know? And it's really like helping people define what it means. Like, here's the truth. And if you can't see it, like get with somebody who can see it.
Mm.
I had an elder teaching me one time. I'm initiated in the Yoruban tradition, and she was teaching me of like, you're never going to be able to see your own stuff. Like, you have to have a reflection to
Mm.
get you into contact with it, and then you can start kind of mining it yourself.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to see your own stuff,
Yeah.
and somebody else is going to have a different view, a better view, a more accurate view of you. And
Yeah.
so it's important to be in contact with that.
That's beautiful. And even more so, you made a comment about some of the people that have, let's just say, big platforms that are, I don't want to say yogi guru, but more of a teacher mode. And you've seen the dynamics change there because, like you said earlier, which was very true, some aren't walking the talk. And that's not a criticism, it's an observation, as you're speaking of from this mentor.
Yeah.
A lot of people, as another example, uh, what people call twin flames. And
Hmm.
Morgan and I have never really resonated with that term, but I definitely resonate with the term mirror. And
Hmm.
I think I told her either right after she left or before she left, uh, the greatest gift of all this is that mirror,
Hmm.
because there are things I can see in that mirror that I would have never seen in myself. And the way they come is you're looking at somebody at the nth degree going, that's not me. When
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
it's not them, it's you. Right.
Yeah,
And it's just
right.
that resistance. And that's going back to what you said at the top of the show with this whole thing with this type of modality, like that Morgan uses as well. It's I was talking about the zero pointing, but it's not the modality, it's what occurs during this process, which is you unveiling you to yourself through a
Yeah.
process that, in a sense, provides a mirror through some type of process or exercise. But it's mind blowing, I mean, in her modality, you just could do the subjects mom, dad, brother, sister, ex spouse, partner, children, and it's like you talk about wake up experiences. I
Yeah.
mean, they just come through the roof.
Right. They do. They do. And what would the world be like if we really got, like, if even just this experience, if everyone could feel a tree breathe,
Yeah,
what would the world be like? I have felt a tree breathe.
yeah,
I know that experience directly. It's mind-boggling. I don't even understand it. And to the same thing as like for people, humans, all of us walking around here, what is or what could be our experience if every part of them was every part of you?
yeah. Well, that's where we're headed. You
Yeah.
know, let go or be dragged. I mean, that's I have so much respect. I don't know if you know our second hashtag here is the human is the hero. But to actually be walking the talk, which another way to say that would be embodiment.
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to get to a point of completion, so to speak, because the universe is always in motion. I think we're now in an atmosphere of how far do you want to take it? Like,
Yeah.
how far do you want to take this oneness?
Right.
Because even though we're in this dense realm, or what has been a dense realm, and it's very physical, there is huge energy behind us because of the fact that we've gone into the depths of density.
Yeah.
We got to remember we're carrying the other side of the spectrum with us wherever we go.
Right.
And and so that's, what you're doing is, to me, kind of epitomizes it, because you got one foot in both, both
Straddling the
consciousness.
worlds,
Hmm.
straddling the worlds. Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to speak to, in some of my storytelling and things like that through my own experience. I'm going to speak to the shadow. I'm going to speak to the terrifyingness of it.
Mm.
Like, it is absolutely the most terrifying feeling I've ever experienced, to feel like every single cell in my body was going to be obliterated
Yeah.
if I downloaded this like divine infusion of divine feminine.
Yeah.
Every single cell, like everywhere I'm resistant, everywhere it's like, I can't take it, I can't take it. And there are body responses, like being embodied, walking the walk, you're gonna have body responses.
Yeah.
There's a visceral experience to holding, being, showing the energy and taking those rides.
Yeah.
And it's powerful, and it's anchoring, and it is sure and certain all at the same time, and absolutely freaking terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that example with the divine feminine, because there's something that, you look at things like that. It could be twin flame, the divine masculine, divine feminine, God,
Mhm.
whatever. But if you look at like the connotations we give them, we think of the divine feminines like Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But she's really Cali. You know what I mean? And like Anubis is big with me. He's basically the god of life and death, or escorts you to the underworld or whatever. But it's that part of us, that
Mhm.
scary part of us,
Yeah.
that to a human, that we think we're not even anything like that. But the truth is, that is us. And
That is us.
that's actually that shadow. That's
Yep.
the best part of us, because Callie loves you, loves me, whatever you want to call it, but she's not taking any shit. you
Right.
know,
Right. Yeah.
I
That's not
think
our
her
deal.
motto is "Own your shit and you will shift." Something
Yeah.
like that. But it's a tough mother's love, and
Yeah.
and regardless of what's happening, there's a personal decision being made by souls like you, where you're saying, I'm going to hold myself to the highest degree of impeccability and integrity, and I'm just going to move forth in this perfect imperfection.
Yep. Yep. And keep saying yes. And when there's a moment that you have choice, which I feel like you have choice in every moment, keep choosing, keep choosing, keep choosing. And then that will bring you close to being present, 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 right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you keep choosing and you take the next step, choose again.
yeah,
Don't stop choosing.
yeah. And just to add on to that, like there was a program that said, when you do this, you get that. When you do this, you'll be there, right? You'll be in
Hmm.
heaven,
Hmm.
and it's not really like that. It's like nothing's given to us for free, and
Yeah.
the beauty of that, and again, obviously I'm married to Morgan Lee for a reason, many reasons, but a lot of the things that she pulls in, one of them being what is in the age of the Trinity, what to me I heard was the best description. Is what she said was, you're serving yourself, you're serving your brother and sister, the other, and you're serving humanity / the universe, the world, in one equal stroke. It's like, what is to thine own self be true, which is my second or third favorite um, phrase. What is that? It's that to me. It's that. It's like
Hmm.
one is the other, and when your thoughts, words, or intentions are in line with that, that's the magic. That's new earth. That's new birth.
Yep. Yep. And to be conscious and awake to, again, direct, right? To know the nuances, to be able to keep choosing and to be able to direct
Yeah.
and to keep going on that same path. We can get knocked off of it really
Yeah.
easily. So you got to come back, come back. That's the training of meditation. Come back, come back, come back. What are
Yeah.
you choosing?
Yeah. Yeah. This year's moved so fast, and I feel like so I left for Sedona about a month ago, or maybe,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, something like that. Don't ask me. But anyway, I think it was about a month ago. Yeah, because I got there on the 14th. one of the things that came to me in this massive, frequency wise and comprehensiveness wise, these downloads that we've all been getting at a more rapid pace, was once you make a decision, there is no wrong decision, because you've now faced, if you know what I mean, if there's a question, you've got another decision. That's why I see everything seems to come down to 2 points everywhere I turn, be it a person or a prejudice or a bias, but really it's just a choice, right? It's choice. Like you said, choice, make another choice, make another choice. Because if you keep making choices in a certain loop, which we've all become familiar with, you're going to get the same thing. We figured it out. We finally figured out what the definition of insanity is.
Right. Yep, that's exactly true.
So,
yep. And then to your point of deciding and if it's bad or is it right, that goes back to our belief systems and how we were taught and what we got in trouble for growing up and, things like that. Like two people could make the same choice and one could feel bad and one could feel completely accurate and right. But it's on, where do we come from and what are we holding it to?
Yeah. That's right. It's not just in the whys, it's in the why nots.
Yep.
And we all know that because the guidance comes in like, go do this and go do that. And you're like, I don't want to do that. Why not?
Right. And I think with clarity, it's like understanding what you're going for versus understanding what you're not going for. Like you won't be clear until you understand both sides. And I always, in my software programming days, I would tell my clients, like, try and break the system. Like a good test is not to test to make sure it passes.
Right.
A good test is to test 15,000 other things that's going to break it.
Right.
Like make sure you think along those lines too.
Right on. Right on. So how do people find you if they wanted to look into what you're doing or, do a session or anything like that?
Yeah, so online, I am Facebook oriented primarily, and you can find me Crystal Clenney. That's where most of my stuff's being posted on Facebook right now. I also have an Intuitive Human page. We're going to be opening up Intuitive Human community pages too. And then we're on YouTube. If you guys want to check out some of the interviews that we've done over the last year and a half, our YouTube channel is also Intuitive Human. Pretty much everywhere is Intuitive Human.
Intuitive Human. Okay, cool.
And then Instagram too. We're on there as well. We're kind of shifting our social media focus to Facebook right now, but we'll come back Instagram, and we're keeping Instagram alive. But you kind of got to like change with Facebook has provided a lot of new social media things. But yeah, so that's primary. And if you're in San Diego or gonna be here in the LA area or something like that, I take clients in person down here in San Diego. So that's always a possibility. This is my office. This is where you'd be.
Right on. So I might see you in San Diego.
All right. I would love that.
In August, we're working on some stuff over here at Soulogy, and I don't know what's going to happen with it, but as in all things, we'll let the guidance direct us. But
that's for
if
sure.
it goes through, we'll be in San Diego and LA. So, but we'll see what happens. I'd love to collaborate with you again later this year, and I wish you the very best in all of your endeavors. And thank you for sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence and being so open with us.
Hey, thank you very much. That's what it's about. We got to be the ones we're encouraging.
That's right.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Peace out. See y'all tomorrow. Gabriella Young.